Hello, students. So this is the class of digital communication system. We have already completed 2 lectures. My first lecture was on need of digital communication, and also we discussed some of the technical aspects of communication system. We related digital communication with analog communication and found out the difference and the similarity. In the second lecture, we discussed about the building block, or you can say the block diagram of the digital communication system, where we had the transmitter, the receiver, and the blocks inside those transmitter and receiver. That is the major important part that we had over there was you can see over here, the inside the transmitter, we had the sampler, the quantizer, and the encoder. We discussed the process of sampling here in short, and the process of quantizing and encoding also. But we have we learn these things in detail. And today's class is upon the sampling theorem, the process of sampling, how we do it mathematically, and then converting those mathematical language into circuit. So keep in mind, in communication system, you will have a principle based on the principle is derived with some mathematics, and you can convert those mathematics into circuit. So whenever you are studying communication system, you should know the principle behind what is happening. You should know the mathematics behind that principle, and you should know how to build a circuit from that mathematical principle. Okay, now let's get started with the sampling. Okay, so first, let us understand what is the process of sampling that we studied. We have understood that sampling is basically the conversion of the continuous time signal into a discrete time signal. This is a major thing that we do in sampling. We are converting the continuous time signal into a discrete time signal. How we do it is we are taking the samples at regular intervals. Now, suppose you are having these samples at, say, you are taking the samples, the signal is extending from t is equals to 0 to say t is equals to 18, or anything you can take, but let me take it 18 for now. You take the sample at 0. The next sample, you are taking it at t equals to 2. Then you took the sample at t equals to 4, t equals to 6, t equals to 8, then t is equals to 10. So 2, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12. Took the sample at 14, 16, 18, and say the signal is extending from time t is equals to 0 to t is equals to 20. Fine. Now, if you take the sample from, there can be 2 cases. Suppose there is a case where you are taking the sample from, say, t equals to 0 to t is equals to 10. So you are losing all the information from 10 to 20. Or there can be another case when you are taking you have started from t equals to 0, you are ending at t equals to 20, but you are taking at 0, then you are taking at 10, then you are taking at 14, and then you are taking at 20. Is this 2 scenarios? In these 2 scenarios, what is going to happen is you are not covering the full signal. You're not covering the full length of the signal. You're not taking the signal samples at correct intervals. So the sampling theorem tells you the second case is related to the sampling theorem, which says that you have to sample at a rate of twice the maximum frequency of the signal, so that when you are trying to make the original signal from the samples, you can recover it completely, so that the original signal is completely recoverable from its samples. What does that mean? Suppose first time I had this analog signal, or you can say the continuous time signal. I took the sample, but now at the demodulator, again, we want the original continuous time signal. If you do not take the samples in a proper way, then you cannot reconstruct the original signal. So these are the 2 fundamental limits that is there upon the sampling theorem. So let us see the wordings. To convert a continuous time signal to a discrete time signal, a fundamental tool called sampling is used. So this is the major thing that we use sampling, converting continuous to discrete. The second thing, sufficient number of samples must be taken so that the original signal is represented in the samples completely. You cannot start from 0 and go only till 10 when the full length of the signal is 20. Or you cannot start from like 10 to 20 and say that I have taken all the samples nicely, because you have left the samples before 10, but this length of the signal is from 0 to 20. So this is one thing. Reconstruction or complete recovery of the original signal from its samples. In this case also and in this case also, if you do these two things, then the complete recovery of the signal from its sample is not possible. So for the complete reconstruction, you have this sampling theorem. A band-limited signal of finite energy which has no frequency component higher than FM Hertz. So you have to take a signal which is band-limited and it is of finite energy. An infinite energy signal cannot be sampled because the infinite energy means you cannot actually physically realize it also. And secondly, you don't know from where to where we have to take the samples. So that's why finite energy, when it is band limited, that means you don't have any component, frequency component higher than a certain frequency. Let us see what is meant by band limited from a small diagram. So say this is my signal. I drew the signal from, say, this is minus omega m to omega m. So the bandwidth of the signal is 2 omega m. If you measure this length, it is 2 omega m. So mod of omega, if mod of omega is greater than omega m, that time the value, my x of j omega equals to 0. This is a Fourier transform of xt, right? Fourier transform of xt. We write it as x of j omega. So let us understand once again. Then what does that mean is, in terms of the Fourier transform, the magnitude of the signal, this one is the magnitude of the signal is 0. That is mod of x of j omega equals to 0 if omega is greater than omega m. So beyond omega m, you don't have any frequency component. Omega m is the highest frequency component. Highest. Beyond this, you don't have any frequency component. That is meant by band limited. So that kind of band limited signal with finite energy, those can be sampled. And how can they be sampled? If you are taking the samples at uniform interval less than or equal to 1 by 2 FM seconds apart. So that means the minimum less than or equal to 1 by 2 FM seconds apart. That means you have to take the samples at 1 by 2 FM seconds. At every 1 by 2 FM seconds, you have to take the samples. So that is your maximum sampling interval. So this 1 by 2 FM is your maximum sampling interval. The other way of telling this is you will take the samples at 2 FM samples. The rate of sampling will be 2 FM samples per second. That is the minimum sampling rate. So let us understand these 2 points. So first, in order to understand this, you should remember that relation between time period and frequency. So time period is what? What is time period is half 1 by the reciprocal of frequency, right? So time period is equals to 1 by frequency. Okay, now here it is telling 1 by 2 FM seconds apart. 1 by 2 FM seconds. After every 1 by 2 FM seconds, you can take the sample. This is your sampling interval. This is called sampling interval. And the other way of telling this TS is you can write it as Fs is equals to 2 FM. So this Fs is your sampling rate. So the sampling rate. So this is your minimum sampling rate, should be minimum sampling rate. Fine. The minimum sampling rate should be Fs. That is, you can write it. Fs can be greater than D. Here I am writing Fs can be greater than or equal to 2 FM, or the other way of telling it is maximum sampling interval. So the sampling interval Ts, right? Ts should be less than or equal to what? 1 by 2 FM. So when you are taking the samples, you have to see that you have not crossed the time interval of after 1 by 2 FM. Then that means you will lose some of them. And the rate should can be greater than equal to 2 FM. It cannot be lesser than that. The rate of sampling cannot be lesser than 2 FM. You have to take every after the samples at the rate of 2 FM. So let us understand this by a mathematical question. So we have, say, a signal xt, that is 2 cos say it is 2 cos 500 pi t minus, say, 14 sine 300 pi t. So what is the sampling rate for this signal? What should be the sampling rate so that according to the sampling theorem, you are sampling it? That means you will be able to recover the signal from its sample. Okay. So what will be the sampling rate? So for this first one, what you have, omega is 2 into 250 pi. That is 2 pi omega, right? So omega 1 is 250. So what is your FM? FM is, F1 is 250 hertz. Same way for this one. For this one, what do you have is 2 pi omega 2 is equal to 300 pi. So what you have over here is F2 is equal to 150 hertz. So what is the maximum frequency of the signal? 250 hertz. So you have to sample it at the rate of 500 samples per second. So Fs is equals to 2 FM. It can be greater than or equal to 2 FM. So Fs has to be greater than or equal to 2 FM. That is 500 hertz. That you can say in terms of samples per second, which will help you to visualize the thing. You have to take 500 samples per second. In terms of time period, or you can say that in terms of sampling interval, you can say that you will have to take the samples lesser than 1 by 500 seconds. After every 1 by 500 seconds, you have to take the samples, otherwise you will lose some informations. So this is the basic part that we do in sampling, the sampling theorem, how we are sampling it. Now let us see. Okay, so this is the practical example of sampling, you can say, or we have gone very far from sampling now, but still to make you explain, to make you understand the things going behind it, let's understand. So this is a CD, and this side you have on the left side you have the CD, and this on the right side you have a TV. TV is basically a broadcast audio which is using almost, say, lesser frequency than the CD for broadcasting. So let us say the frequency of the music that you have stored in your CD is, say in your CD, the music is playing at 44 kilohertz, and you want to broadcast it on a TV, which is, say, 30 kilohertz. Fine. So you want to broadcast it at 30 kilohertz. What you have to do is you have to translate this frequency to 30 kilohertz. How can you do this? First, you have taken the, in case of CDs, the samples are at the rate of 44 kilohertz or 44 samples per second. You are doing it. Fine. 44,000 samples per second, right? Now what happens? You want it to decrease it. So what you will do in, what we do is, first we convert this, the signals here is in discrete format. Now we are going to convert it into analog, and then when we will convert it into digital, or you can say discrete, here you can directly write digital format, the time being. Digital or discrete, for the time being, you can take it the same thing. Now again, you will convert it into digital. While converting from here, from analog to digital, you will sample it at 30 kilohertz. Now, this was a method that was used previously. Sampling it at sample at 30. Now we have the up converters and many mixers and other things from which we don't need to convert it from digital to analog and then from analog to digital. That the technology is very advanced right now, but since we are starting from the beginning to understand understand the method of sampling, that this is a very good example. Also, you can take one more example. Say, this example will in fact make you understand the problems also that you have if you don't sample at the sampling rate, or you can say the sampling according to the sampling theorem. See, there is a point on this. This is a spinning wheel. This is a spinning wheel, fine. And you have a point over here. Now, if say the wheel is spinning at n revolutions per minute, and you are seeing this wheel n times per minute. Okay. So this dot, where will it appear? Every time it will appear at the same place, because the number of times you are seeing it, or the frequency of your watching the wheel and the frequency of the revolution of the wheel, both are matching. Now say you are seeing it at n1 times per minute, of your frequency is n1 and the frequency of the spinning wheel is n, where n1 is greater than n. So originally, say the wheel was rotating is in this direction, that is your clockwise direction. So what will happen if you see it at n1 times per minute? Then you are seeing it before, or you're seeing it after? You're seeing it before. So this point will appear at this point. Again, you will see it at this point. So actually the wheel was rotating or revolutioning in clockwise direction, but you are seeing that it is rotating in the anti-clockwise direction. So when you are seeing it in a rate which is greater than the spinning rate of the wheel, then you find that the direction of the wheel, the direction of spinning, is not the same as that of the original spinning wheel. So these are the problems that you encounter when you are sampling it, when you're not sampling it at the Nyquist rate. So the Nyquist rate says that you have to sample it at a frequency which is greater than equal to 2 times of the maximum frequency component of that signal. So say if you are taking n1 lesser than n, then that time the point will be ahead, and you will see the the rotation of the wheel is in the same direction as the original direction, that is the clockwise, but the points will be a little bit ahead. This is the main you can say the effect or of sampling not sampling it at the Nyquist rate. So that also we'll be studying, that is called aliasing. So here you have understood how do we do the converting and the mixing and all those things, converting from a higher frequency to a lower frequency, or from a lower frequency to a higher frequency. Those are many technologies have been developed for that, but in a crude way, if we don't have any technology in that sense, we can use sampler. By first, we will convert the CD's data into digital data, means by using a digital to analog converter, and then again by using analog digital converter and sampling it at the rate of the audio broadcast, then we can get the CD music we had inside our CD as broadcasted on the TV, to be broadcasted on the TV. Got it? Okay, now let's get into the mathematics of this. So here you can see this is a continuous time signal. You are using a sampler and then getting the samples. Now in this sampler, what you are doing is that you are multiplying it with an impulse signal. Prior to sampling, a low-pass anti-aliasing filter is used to suppress high-frequency signals. To make the signal band limited, we are using this low-pass anti-aliasing filter so that the higher frequency components of the signal is filtered out, or it is suppressed. Fine. Now, the process of sampling is how the process of sampling use that you are multiplying the continuous time signal with a periodic impulse train. Now let us understand this part properly. Okay, so say you have a signal xt and you are multiplying it with an impulse signal. What is an impulse signal? You are multiplying it with an impulse signal where the samples are ts seconds apart. So first of all, what is an impulse signal? Impulse signal is, in the time domain, the impulse signal is having infinite value at t equals to 0 and 0 value. We denote this impulse signal as delta t. Delta t is equals to infinite at t equals to 0 and is equal to 0 otherwise, means at all other points it is 0. What happens in the discrete domain? It is delta n is equals to 1 at t is equals to 0 and 0 otherwise. Fine. So this is the definition of the impulse signal in the in the discrete time and the continuous time domain. Fine. Now, if you take the sample, if you shift the signals, you will take the you will get the samples at different time intervals. Say, I will write it delta t minus 1. So this is, you are going to have the sample at t equals to 1. This is t is equals to 1. And all other point it will be 0. Say again, I am writing it delta t minus 2. So you will have that value at t equals to 2. Fine. So this is the train of impulses. What we are going to do is, we are going to multiply my original message signal. Say this is my original message signal with a train of impulse signal. So my signal will be in this manner. How I generate this signal? By shifting the impulse signal, right? So see, this is 0, this is ts, this is 2ts. Now I am taking these samples at the ts seconds apart, right? So I have written it over here. Delta, this signal I can write it as delta tst. That is, this is denoting the sampling rate over here. This is a sampling interval here that is written in this manner as ts. If I write it in fs, then we call it sampling rate. Fine. Okay, now what you are going to do is, you are multiplying. In this side also it can be there. So this side also you will have the signals at, these are not minus ts, minus 2ts. So this will be the thing. Now let us see the block over here. So this will be a multiplier block, or you can say a multiplier circuit. In this multiplier circuit, you are putting this signal xt. You are putting this signal xt. And you are also putting this signal delta tst. Means delta t, an impulse signal sampled at impulse signal shifted with ts seconds. Right now we are shifted. Now when we are multiplying these two, we will get a sampled signal. Say I am calling it gt. Fine. We will also look at the frequency spectrum of this signal. So this was in the time domain. Let us see in the frequency domain. So see, this one will be the signal in the frequency domain. In the frequency domain, this will remain as it is. Okay, this will remain as it is. Just you will write it in terms of omega s to omega s. This way you will write it. So this is basically your xt, and this one is your x of omega. Now, how will be your g of omega? So the g of omega, the Fourier transform of this one will be g of omega. Fine. Okay, so the Fourier transform of this is going to be G of omega. Okay, let us see this one. Gt was the sampled signal is equal to xt gt is equals to xt into delta tst. In the frequency domain, we can write it g omega equals to x omega. This is convolution delta, and take it omega 2 pi by omega s. Ts omega is t is equal to 2 pi by omega, right? T is equals to 2 pi by omega. So instead of 2s ts, you can write it 2 pi by omega s, and this will be your omega domain. So this is convolution. This is convolution. This one was multiplication. Multiplication in the time domain results in convolution in the frequency domain. Fine. Now how to write the expression for this? Simple thing. Let us see. What we are going to write is right here. Now we don't have the actual signal, so we are representing it as xt. So we will take the, when we take the Fourier domain when we take the delta tst, if we write it in the time domain, we can write it in the trigonometric Fourier series, the trigonometric Fourier series for this one. This you need to remember this portion as you have already learned signals and systems. So this one might be clear to you. If not, you need to remember this part. 1 by ts 1 plus 2 cos omega st, fine, plus 2 cos 2 omega st plus 2 cos 2 omega st plus 2 cos 3 omega st, and it will go on in this manner. Now, when you are doing it in the frequency domain, then you are getting the convolution. This same thing you are multiplying with xt, right? What you are doing is you are multiplying xt with delta tst. So what you get is a simple thing. This xt by ts gets multiplied with all of this. Fine. After this, if you see it in the frequency domain, then you have to convolute. So what will happen when you do the convolution? Xt will turn into x omega, and when you are multiplying xt with 2 cos omega t, what is the cos omega st? What is the Fourier transform of this one? You need to know the Fourier transform of cos omega st. So that is delta omega minus omega s plus delta omega plus omega s, fine, omega plus omega s. So this one xt will first become x of omega. The ts is a constant thing that will be there itself. And this x of omega is multiplied with 1. Sorry, xt is multiplied with 1. For the first case, xt was multiplied with 1. So it remains x omega. But when it is multiplied with this one, so it will become x omega minus omega x. So let me do it in a better way. Okay. So now you see over here. If I multiply xt into cos omega st, then what I will get? The Fourier transform will be x of omega minus omega s plus x of omega plus omega s. Got it? So now you see the first here over here, you have this xt multiplied with 1. So that will be x omega simply. Then you have xt multiplied with 2 cos omega st. So how we are going to write this part in the frequency domain, the Fourier transform of this, we will write it in this manner. What we are going to do is 1 by Ts outside. The first one will be x of omega only. The second one will be 2 times of x of omega minus omega s. You can take this 2 outside it because, or no, it's okay. Then you can write 2x of omega plus omega s. Wait a minute, let me just clarify this. I'll write it from the leftmost part and it will be better. Sorry. So here let us start from here. 1 by Ts x omega plus x omega minus omega s plus x omega plus omega s. Then for this, the part that is cos 2 omega st. This one here it is cos 2 omega st. Here it is cos 3. So x omega minus omega, x omega minus 2 omega x. Now you will be getting omega minus 2 omega s plus x omega plus 2 omega s. And this way it is going to continue. Then you will have x omega minus 3 omega s. Okay, and then x omega plus 3 omega s. This way it is going to continue. So this is what? This is your g of omega. This one is your g of omega. So you have got the signal in the frequency domain itself. So here this g of omega can be shortened and written. What can you write it? Since you have seen this part, it is the train, shifted train. You can shift a train of shifted impulses. Okay. So what you can do is 1 by Ts summation of x of omega minus n omega s. Okay. So n will be going from minus infinity to n is equal to positive infinity. What is this omega s? Omega s is nothing but 2 pi by Ts, radians per second. Radians per second, fine? And Fs is equals to 1 by Ts hertz, as you know, right? So this is the major thing. Now, if you see the diagram of the signal in the frequency domain after sampling, it will be something in this manner. Fine. So what will be these points? Let us see. So this is 0. This will be 2 pi Fm. Fine. Or you can say it is omega n. There will be a small gap between this, or if it is greater than, and if there is no, if Fs is equals to 2Fm, it will be in this manner. If Fs is greater than 2Fm, in that case, there will be some gap. This side also the same thing will be drawn. Fine. So you're sampling it at what is the rate of sampling? One is 0, then the next one is omega s. Then you will have it at 2 omega s this way. Fine. This is called the spectrum of the sampled signal. So once again, let's do it in a very brief way. You had the original signal xt. You multiplied this original signal with the train of impulse signal, weighted train of impulse signal, which is shifted by Ts seconds apart, right? So we are calling it delta Tst. Now this is multiplication, and you are getting what? You are getting equal to Gt, fine? Now, if you see the same thing in the frequency domain, so your signal was something like this. It was having a spectrum, say minus 2 pi FM or minus omega m to omega m. When you are doing the convolution, this is the convolution. Multiplication in the time domain results in the convolution in the frequency domain. So this will be your signal in the frequency domain. 2 pi by omega s in the form of omega. The same thing will be there. All these zero, this one was your zero. This is TS, 2TS. So this will be same in the form of omega. You will write it. That's it. 2 pi by TS, 2 pi by 2TS this way. Now what you are getting is G of omega. How will this G of omega look like? You are sampling it at the sampling frequency. Then this is going to be something this manner. Fine. The amplitude will also be divided by the sampling rate. Fine. A by Ts. Fine. So this is the representation in the time domain and the frequency domain. In the mathematics, you should just remember the trigonometric Fourier series representation of the impulse signal, and then you can easily multiply it. Xt multiplied with that part, that is the trigonometric Fourier series representation, that is 1 plus 2 cos omega st, 2 cos 2 omega st. Now this will give you the in the frequency transformation of cos omega st, you have this delta omega minus omega s. In this way, you can get the sampled signal. So for getting the signal, you need to multiply the message signal or the original signal with a train of impulse signal, train of shifted impulses. You need to multiply it with train of shifted impulses. This is the point. And before doing sampling, you need to use an anti-aliasing filter so that your signal, the higher frequency component of the signal is removed. Fine. So this is from the book, the Sanjay Sharma book. I have taken this image. So you can see over here. Now this is the 3-step process of the full thing. This we will be discussing later on. Okay, here you can see the Nyquist rate and Nyquist interval. When the sampling rate becomes exactly equal to 2 FM samples per second, then it is called the Nyquist rate. Nyquist rate is also called the minimum sampling rate and maximum sampling rate. We have already discussed all these things, that the intervals should not be more than Ts and the rate should not be lesser than this 2 FM. Fine. Okay, now we come to signal reconstruction. This is another important thing. So the process of reconstructing a continuous time signal from its sample is called signal reconstruction. Now you have got the samples of the signal. You have sampled the signal, but after demodulation, you want the original signal. Then what you need to do is reconstruction. Signal reconstruction, the other name for that is interpolation. So what we do for this, for signal reconstruction, what we do is we will not be doing the types of sampling today. We will just keep it till signal reconstruction. So for signal reconstruction, as you saw, that let us go to the maths part of it and we will understand it very easily. Okay. So let's see this one. This one was your signal. XT, right? XT was your signal. But all these extra things have also come up. You want only XT, right? You don't want this portion. Fine. If you see it in the frequency domain, you want only X omega. You want only X omega. These are the higher frequency component. Okay. 2 omega S, 3 omega S, 4 omega S, 5 omega S, n omega S. Those are the higher frequency components of the signal. So what you need to do is you need to pass the sampled signal through a low pass filter. You need to pass the sampled signal through a low pass filter. the low pass filter is going to remove all the higher frequency component and only the lower frequency component will be there. So your low pass filter should be designed at the cutoff frequency of omega s. So see over here, you can see you want it at greater than these points, you want to remove it, or 2 omega s, 3 omega s. So the cutoff frequency should be the frequency at till which you want the samples. After that, higher than that, you don't want the samples. So the cutoff frequency should be designed in such a way. So now practical ideal low pass filter which you can design is in this manner. You will have, this is the minus omega m to omega n. This is a slope. This one is having the ideal low pass filter, which is having the cutoff frequency at omega m. If you are designing it at omega s, that will be your sampling rate. So you can do that way also. The major important problem that is coming is that you cannot design an ideal low pass filter. There will be some roll off factor. So you just need to keep this point in mind. Fine. So you need to, a little bit of gap will be there. That is not a problem. But what you need to understand over here is that for signal reconstruction, what you need is, you need to pass the sampled signal. You need to pass the sampled signal, that was your G of omega, is passed through a low pass filter, is passed through a low pass filter. And you can see that there was a TS which was in the denominator. So it should be multiplied with TS also. This is multiplication. Okay. Or you can first write the low pass, first pass it through a gain. This is a gain stage. And then you are passing it through a low pass filter. And then you will get the original signal X of. So you can write this part in the frequency domain also. Okay. Now what is aliasing? This is a phenomenon in which a high frequency component in the frequency spectrum of the signal appears as low frequency component in the spectrum of the sampled signal. This happens if the signal is undersampled, that is the sampling rate is lesser than the Nyquist rate. So to overcome this aliasing, you are using an anti-aliasing low pass filter prior to sampling to band limit the original signal. So what is this aliasing? See, in the example that I showed you sometimes before, the wheel was spinning. If you sample it at N1, which is greater than N, then what is happening that you're seeing that the wheel is rotating in anti-clockwise, but it was rotating in the clockwise direction. So you got the sample beforehand. You took the sample beforehand. Sampling rate is lesser than the Nyquist rate. Then we get this type of phenomenon which is called the aliasing. Let us see how aliasing happens. So see, just in the frequency domain, you can show it. We will do this portion of aliasing once more. For today, I'm just showing you this part. So this one was your original frequency component, and now this component, this portion, you are having the aliasing effect. This is the aliasing effect. Higher frequency component appears to be the lower frequency, but actually this was the higher frequency component. So we need to pass the original signal through a through a low pass filter prior to sampling. So let's keep it till here for the sampling technique. We will be doing the types of sampling in our next class. Before doing the types of sampling, we will build upon a little bit upon this aliasing in a good manner, means in a more intuitive manner, so that you can understand what is the meaning of shifting of higher frequency component to a lower frequency component. So for the time, let's thank you everyone. Let's meet for this types of sampling and other parts. Thank you.